Greetings. My name is Van Jones. I am the Special Advisor for Green Jobs here at the White House Council on Environmental Quality. I want to give you greetings from my chair, Nancy Sutley, who I think most of you know, a great champion for justice and for sustainability. She is here as the chair of the White House Council on Environmental Quality, my direct boss. By statute and in practice, she is the #1 advisor to the President on all environmental issues. So I'm proud to be working here with her. I give you greetings from her, and I'm also proud to be in conversation with you. I know you've been working very hard this past period, trying to figure out the way forward, how to have success in the next couple of years. But first, I want to congratulate you on the success that we've had for the past couple of years. If you remember, 2.5 years ago, we had a very different situation in our country. I'm here in Washington, D.C. This was a very different town just 2.5 years ago, both in Congress and here at the White House. That 2.5 year change didn't come from on high, it didn't come from outer space, it didn't come from some mysterious source. It came from folks like you, folks like me, regular people who met, just as you're meeting today, to figure out a better way forward. And we had a beautiful pro-democracy movement to arise in this country. And ordinary people proved that when we work together, when we believe in something better than what's being offered, when we're willing to make those sacrifices, when we're willing to cooperate across lines of class, lines of color, we can make extraordinary things happen, amazing things happen. And now we are having to go from a campaign of hope to a moment of governing for change. And it is that transition I want to talk with you about, and I want to enlist your aid and support in. There is a big difference between campaigning and governing, as we are beginning to learn. There are 3 big differences, and we know them quite well, but just let me rehearse them. Number 1, when you are campaigning, you get a chance to focus on one day. You get a chance to focus on how do we win on that one day called Election Day. When we govern, we have to win every day. Every day there's an opportunity for us to move the agenda forward. But it's much more demanding because there's no one fixed moment in time. We have to have a continuous arc of change moving forward. Number 2, when we're campaigning, we can focus on one candidate, one person. Now we actually have to manage multiple causes. And that also requires much more sophistication, much more cooperation, much more communication so that we can continue to move forward together. And lastly, when you're campaigning, as you know, especially in the communities in which most of us have done our work, you're trying to move people from despair to hope. When you're governing, you're trying to move people from hope to actual change. And that is a challenge that we face now. How do we go from hope to change? Because if we don't go from hope to change, people go back from hope to despair, and we'll be right back where we started from. So this is a pivotal moment, and your meeting occurs at a pivotal time in the forward progress of this country and the forward progress of all of our causes. I think that change comes from 3 places, and it really maps onto the strategy that we have here and what we're asking from you. First of all, it's top down in a lot of ways. It's also bottom up, and it's inside out. Change is top down, bottom up, and inside out if it's going to work, if it's going to be meaningful, if it's going to be lasting. Top down, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the things that we're trying to do here in Washington, D.C. If you look at our recovery package, we understood that in order for us to bring the economy back, not just for another boom-bust cycle, but on a permanent trajectory with a new foundation for growth, we were going to have to take dramatic action, and we took that action in our recovery package. Our recovery package, $787 billion to not just jumpstart the economy, but to really set it on a new path forward for more sustained growth and more equitable growth. Out of that $787 billion, we have $60 billion on the table for clean energy, for energy efficiency, for smart batteries, smart grid, for all of the green improvements that we need to make in our country. Our president promised when he was running for office he was going to put $150 billion toward green jobs. By mid-February, he had signed into law $60 billion. That is the kind of integrity that he has, and that's the type of bet that he's making on the future. We have $5 billion alone just for weatherization, just for retrofitting homes so they leak less energy, cutting energy bills for low-income people across the country. We have tried to do our part there in making sure that the public investments actually point us in a new direction. But the reality is that just that top-down commitment is not enough, because the reality is that when the money hits the states and the cities and the communities, it's up to folks at the grassroots level to turn those dollars into real change, to use those dollars to make a real difference. And that's really where the massive, beautiful grassroots that have been built up throughout this country over the decades, certainly much more intensively over the past few years, come in. And that's where you come in. We need to move from just talking about smart growth and talking about green jobs and talking about strong communities and having those as a counter argument to those who don't believe that change is possible. We need to move from that to having counter examples where we actually can show it working. And that cannot be dictated and legislated from Washington, D.C. Those kinds of counterexamples only emerge from real people taking real action, real responsibility, as you have been doing and are now prepared to do at an even greater level. The key is what I call inside-out change. For too long, at the grassroots level, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody else, we have put ourselves in these narrow silos, these little stovepipes, and we've tended to fight over the crumbs as opposed to figuring out a way to get out of those stovepipes and create a new bakery with new pies and new cakes for everybody, as opposed to fighting for the crumbs. The meeting you've just been a part of can be a real pivot point, another pivot point, another turning point, bringing us closer to a reality where we're working together across those lines, across those divisions, so that as different dollars come down, as different foundation-led initiatives move forward, they can be harnessed to bring us closer to the right outcome. We don't need anymore to have one initiative compete against the other. There's enough support in our recovery package for everyone to move forward together. The exciting thing about what's happening in Los Angeles, the exciting thing about what's been happening in Los Angeles, is this incredible ability that you have shown, such a big city with so many divisions, to actually identify those strategic initiatives that bring people together. And now we have a chance for a mega strategic initiative to show the world, to show the country that the things this president has been talking about can come true. They can happen in the real world. They can happen for ordinary people. I congratulate you for your energy, for your effort, for your focus, for your commitment, for your courage, for your creativity. And as you go forward, we are looking forward to hearing from you and from other groups across the country the best ways for us to be partners to you. You have a friend in this White House. You have a partner in this White House. You have people who understand that the federal government can be the caboose. You will be the engine. And as you are the engine for the changes that we seek, know that you have the thanks of a grateful nation and the thanks of a grateful president.